Oh, you go.
Well, I know I was going to say when you wanted to just see if you had enough room, like doing the camera work. I've never really been on that side when you're over there with the controls. I'd be a mess.
Yeah, probably.
My wife, if I got a text and he goes, "Who is that?" The "who is that" as I'm responding throws me right off. Like technology for me is like so bad. I wouldn't be able to speak with that thing in front of me. You got a lot going on in your brain.
You're just one of those guys, man. You're one of those guys that I honestly, a lot of times I mean, no offense by this. I don't think you'll take offense.
No, I don't take offense to much.
Some people would be like, no, like if I showed you for like 20 minutes, you'd get it. You're not. I wouldn't be able to show you.
Nope, not a chance.
That's very funny.
Yeah.
It's actually not that much stuff. And the software that I use for this is actually way more complicated than it needs to be, so it bothers me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More
bells and whistles isn't always better.
Yeah, for sure.
So
like my new truck.
Like your new truck. You got a new truck, yeah. Red.
Yeah, I don't like red.
I don't like red in the winter.
I don't like red trucks.
For some reason I like it more in the summer. I don't know.
The deal, that's all it was.
Yeah, the deal. I have a complaint. I have to complain for a little bit today.
Okay.
If you will allow me to do so.
Yep.
So, actually, well, okay, before that, got to do the meal plan programs thing. It's there if you guys want it. In-season program, meal plans, got a bunch. They're there if you want them. And then second thing is the Twins signed their letter of intent
2 days ago.
2 days ago, which is sweet. So two of the guys that we've been training since they were just wee little lads, they committed to New Hampshire out of our league here, which is pretty cool.
Well, so let me just cut you off.
Yeah.
So this goes kind of, I guess it maybe tie into later, as always.
As always.
I guess everything ties into each other. So This is a thing. So the McPhersons got a scholarship to, both of them, to New Hampshire. Okay, awesome. The thing is they're playing Junior B in Leamington, Ontario. It's the GOJHL, which people get scholarships, but it's almost like it's rare.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, especially as a 16, 17-year-old kid, they committed. They got an early commitment, and the thing that I want to say about that is that goes to show you that it doesn't matter where you play, right? Because a lot of people think that you have to get to. Okay, so if you're in Ontario and you're under 18 years old, you got to get to the OJHL, which is like a tier 2 junior A league, right? So if you get there, then that's where the scouts will be. And then if you don't get signed there, then you got to go. Then you go to BCHL or the CCHL in Ottawa or the USHL, because that's the only way that scouts from the colleges are going to go see you. So it goes to show you that if you just play really well, which they have, and they've been leading their team for, as 16-year-olds last year in points, scoring goals, making plays, working out hard in here, training still on the ice, getting all the stuff done. They played Junior B. So it's not always, can it help? Maybe, but it goes to show you right there, then and there, proofs in the pudding, that it's not where you play, it's how you play.
Yep.
That's it. That's all. So I'm happy to see that.
Yeah, for
now,
sure.
As their development continues, because I don't think they're going to New Hampshire next year. I think it's the year after.
Yeah.
So they're probably going to go to,
USHL or BC.
USHL or BCHL, because a lot of teams are looking at them, especially once you're committed, then everybody wants you.
Yeah.
So good for them. And it's really awesome to see that they did it without chasing it.
Yeah.
Right. They just went and played really well, because that's the one thing you can always control is how well you play. If you play well, people notices, and it's the old it's what everybody talks about, is like, just play well. Just play well. It doesn't matter where. So now we just take that down to the kids that are 11, 12, 13, 14, whatever, before they're 16, their draft years and all that kind of stuff, when people get all hung up about where they're playing, and they feel like, because there's a lot of people that are making movements to, like, the big centers to play on better teams and stuff like that. And it's like, that's the wrong answer. And I hate saying it all that, because, like, to be honest with you, I don't like to sound like a know-it-all or tell someone that, you shouldn't do that, because it's your life and it's your choice. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But if you take, 100 kids that do that, well, I don't know. I don't need to use a number, but for most often it doesn't matter. right? You're either going to get good enough to play somewhere or you're not.
Mhm.
And so that's why it's like, do what you can with what you got, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And for these guys too, especially, it's how you always say you can't hide a good hockey player. They're there, man.
Yeah.
They're always there.
Yeah.
They're always around because
Yeah.
you know, we had Dalton on talking about being a pro scout, we've had OHL guys on talking about that, school guys on talking about that, and all of them say they're all trying to find the diamond in the rough guy to pull from somewhere.
Yeah.
Because everybody's looking at all the good teams,
Yeah.
right? So they're always sending guys around to find, so you don't have to jump ship and go all over the place. And to your point, it's not that it never works. It's like sometimes guys do it and it works. Sometimes guys do it and it doesn't work. But that is what the point is, that it doesn't really matter. It's if you're good enough,
No.
you're good enough. If you're not, you're not, for the most part.
That's
You
right.
know? So for these guys, it's great. So I want to give kudos to them, and then even like some of our other guys, we're gonna be buzzing in here next summer, man. We have,
Yeah.
especially on the school side, we're gonna have
Yeah.
like 3-4 guys that are Division 1 commits in the last year.
Yeah.
That like brand new, fresh out of the oven. And then we'll
Yeah.
have our regular like OHL guys coming back from schools and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's fun to see, man. Like, and these are other guys too that I can't really talk about it because it's not really set in stone yet. But guys they're from this league where it's down here where I think people say it's no good. You have to move. They're getting the attention. Schools are talking. Schools are asking. They're around. So it's like, anyways, you said it. You said enough of it. I don't need to keep going.
Right.
So I had my one thing to complain about. Actually, the McPhersons reminded me of this. So one of them, a little while back, was hurt and he was going to see a physio. So I have a huge beef with the like physio, chiro, rehab space. And I'm not gonna generalize it to say it's everybody, because there's some physio guys and chiro guys that are awesome and they do really good work and they really care and they try to do the best they can, whatever. But more times than not, when guys come back to me after they've went to see their physio or their chiro or whatever, they haven't been given any answers as to what their injury is or what the recourse is to fix it. They don't know. So for one of them, this was a while back, but I was just reminded of it. He had an injury, went to see a physio guy, and he would come back in here given nothing to do for rehab. So we're past the resting point, and now we're into the rehab point, because rest, sometimes you can't do anything, and I understand that to a degree, because you can always do something. I also don't like that when physio guys say you can't do anything. I'm not saying for the particular injured thing.
Like if you got an AC joint.
Yeah, if you got an AC joint, you can't
shoulder press.
Yeah, can't use it. That's fine. But that doesn't mean I should stay out of the gym for 2 weeks or whatever.
No,
it's
you
like
still have a pair of legs.
Yeah, you still got legs, right? So that's more what I mean. But anyways, once you're past that rest point and now it's time for rehab, I don't find these guys are given specific instruction on how to get themselves back to where they were. So things are very like ambiguous and unclear, and they don't understand whether they're hurt or not, whether they can play or not, whether they're supposed to be strengthening it or whether they're supposed to be just icing it and resting it still. So there's all these questions that these kids have when they come back from physio. So for me, as the trainer, they come in here and I grill them right away about, okay, so like, what did he say? What are you supposed to do? How much time do you need? What am I allowed to have you do versus not? And almost always it's, I don't know. It's almost always they weren't
So is
given.
it a function of the kids didn't listen?
Well, this is my
Could be a part of it.
This is my question, right? So it's like, if I ask them, okay, what exercises did they give you to do? And they say they didn't give me any. That's probably not listening. That's probably they didn't give you any.
Yeah.
If it's they don't understand what the injury is, I could understand them not listening to that maybe because they don't understand what they're being told. But if for you as the chiro guy or the physio guy, you need to make sure as the adult that they understand what the problem is and how to fix it when they leave the session with you, right? That's part of your job. They need to know. And they need to know more than their parents know because they're the ones that have to go to the gym. And I'm talking for kids that are old enough, like the kids we're talking about in junior.
Yeah.
Where they're old enough to handle their own shit for the most part.
Yeah.
So when these kids walk out, they need to know what's going on because their coach is going to ask, their trainers are going to ask, other player personnel are going to ask. They need to know what's happening. What are they allowed to do and not allowed to do, right? And I find it's very common that they'll come from their chiro guy or from their whoever they go see when they're hurt, and they don't actually have answers, and they don't have a plan to get better. It's more just like, okay, I'll come give you the needles for an hour, and then we'll see you next week. And it's like, that's not good enough. That's not a good enough thing, because they're coming into the gym still. They still are skating. They're still doing this stuff.
Yeah.
And they're not given any kind of plan.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So my maybe not my beef, but maybe my ask of anyone listening who does that for work, and maybe you don't fall into who I'm talking about. Maybe you do a great job and all that stuff, which I'm sure there's a lot of people that do. But for the most part, that what I find is kids are not clear about what their issue is and how they're supposed to fix it. And then I don't know how to treat that when they come in here, because they don't know. So it's like, okay, are you hurt or are you not hurt? Kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Can we do stuff or can we not?
Yeah.
If we can do stuff, what kind of stuff can we do? Like, these are the questions that they need to be able to answer, especially when they're coming to see a trainer or whatever. Because I try to keep that dialogue open where it's like, I talk to them, they talk to.
Well, it's a heck of a lot better if you actually understand.
Yeah,
like if
for
you
sure.
understood that whatever, you have a minor tear or you have it's a sprain, and that actual ligament needs 1 week of doing absolutely nothing to get the inflammation down and et cetera, then you can say, oh, okay, that makes sense. That you can work with that, right? But when it comes in with nothing, then it's nothing.
Right.
You know, you have no information to base it off of.
Yeah.
And I don't know if obviously it's not a function of chiropractors and rehab and osteos and stuff like that. It's a function of going the extra mile, doing your job really well.
Right.
Which is pretty common everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You know, it's you always love it when you get someone that actually gives you extra information and extra details of what you're doing, right? So it's like no different than you coming to a trainer. Someone comes to a trainer and they work out, and all you do is they walk in here and you give them the program for the day and say, you're going to do this, this, and this without why, how, corrective, how to recover, how to eat properly, how to get better, and a whole bunch of things to open up their brain and to make them understand what they're doing. Then they're just working out.
Yeah.
And then it'll, you know, it's helpful for them for the time, but they don't really get it. So I think it's the same thing with the rehab stuff.
Yeah.
Is understand what we've done today. So like, let's say you went to a chiropractor and they said, what we've done today, like, I don't know anything about chiropractors, like nothing.
Yeah.
So let's just say they crack your spine, or they do I don't know, acupressure or something like that, or acupuncture, stuff like that. And they explain, okay, what this does is it gets blood flow in it, and it opened up your spine a little bit to have a little bit more mobility. So that one's fine. But this one here, where it did the acupuncture, we got blood flow, but you'll want to maybe whatever, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, okay, this is what we did today, and this is why. Because there wasn't blood flow or whatever. So you need another week, and you understand it maybe a little bit better.
Yeah, for sure.
Then the kid doesn't have to understand it totally, but if the rehab person, chiropractor, doctor, whatever comes back and it says ABC for you, then you might understand it more than the kids and say, well, yeah, you can't. That makes sense why that hurts or whatever.
And I mean, this goes into another thing I wanted to. Well, first of all, that was good to clarify, because I'm not picking on. I love the rehab stuff. I don't think.
Well, I had the reason I want to be real clear on that is because one time we talked about chiropractor thing, and one of my chiropractor friends said, "Hey, is it me?" I go, "No. You're great. You were great with me, but it's just in general."
Yeah, that's what I'm saying in general. And I'm not saying that this stuff doesn't work or that it's
no.
That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm talking about the quality of the care you're giving to the client that you have. And what was funny was, so yesterday I had the boys in here to work out, and the kid came in that had to rehab an injury, and he was saying, oh yeah, I had these 5 exercises that he gave me to do.
Perfect.
I'm like, yeah. It was like, did you ask him to give you those? And he's like, yeah, I asked him because we talked last week, and I was like, oh yeah, he didn't really give me any exercise. And it's like, why does he have to ask you?
Yeah.
It's like, why is the kid asking you for exercises? Like, why are you not just giving him a protocol to follow, right? Yeah. And like, I'm speaking more to your point about the quality of the service that you're giving, right? So it's like that in anything. It's like that with teachers and all that kind of stuff, right? So anyways, that's what I wanted to leave with. That is like, if you're in a position where you can do that, make sure people understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, especially when they're going to come somewhere else like here, where as athletes, you know they're going to be working out and
Mhm.
skating and doing all this stuff. Like they need to be very clear about what they can do and
Yep.
what they can't do. You
Yep.
know, so make sure it is as clear as you can make it.
Yep.
Sometimes a kid will get it, and sometimes you won't. But
Yep.
do the best you can at least to make sure they understand what
Yep.
they're supposed to be doing. So that's what I just wanted to pick on that for a couple minutes. So you can go now. If you like.
So on the weekend we went on a big road trip with the McFarlands.
It was a
I'm
big
sorry.
road trip.
It was a big road trip. We went up to the Sudbury, the North Bay, Sudbury, and then back to Guelph. So it was a 3-day roadie. But man, it gets going. They got the new score clock there, loud, and it's like that old school, old school hockey, right? There's something about those old rinks that it's just a whole different feel, man.
How long had it been since you've been to Sudbury, to that arena?
Well, the last time I went and watched a game was I went up to watch when I was training Zach Cassian
I remember
and
that.
Maggio, and a whole bunch of them were playing that weekend.
Yeah.
So Charlie was in diapers because Zach came in our hotel room that day and he signed Charlie's diaper. So Charlie was like 1, so he's 16 right now, almost 16.
Wow.
So that's so long ago. So yeah, but it's just so when you start going to all the other the newer venues, and then you go to one of these old ones, it's like, okay, so what it is, it absolutely sucks, but it's absolutely incredible.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly.
Like it's the best and the worst.
I got three examples. First one is the barn in Windsor, obviously, where the Spits used to play downtown.
So awesome,
unbelievable. That's
Can't create that atmosphere.
No, if you never been in a place like that, YouTube that. Windsor Spitfires. Look up a game from the 90s or whatever in the old
80s,
barn
90s.
like that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's one. Second one was when I played junior in Chatham. They had the Chatham Memorial Arena. Dude, this thing is a shit box.
Yeah.
It is terrible. And I remember hating going to play there because we played AAA there too.
Yeah.
But then when I started in junior there, it was the best ever. Because it was always jammed, because all the locals, that's all they cared about doing. I don't know if it's they still get crowds there or not anymore, but because it was would have been 10 years ago when I played there. But that place was great. And then we went on the road when I was playing with the university. We went for preseason to play against Harvard. And so I was expecting one of the years before we went to Penn State, and Penn State was insane.
Yeah.
It looked like a NHL rink.
Yeah.
Like it was crazy. It was so absurd. Everything, even like the visitor dressing room was all kind. It was crazy. But anyways, I was expecting that, like Harvard, man.
Yeah.
Like Harvard is. So we get there, we go through the campus, we get to the rink, and it is an old barn.
Yeah.
Like it's an old,
lot of wood.
old. Well, everything's wood. The old crimson. Everything's like super old.
Yeah.
Bull seats. And it's like nothing fancy. Like nothing fancy about it at all. And it was the same with all their athletic facilities around were all old like that. It was so they had the old varsity gym that was there that we went in, got to train in that gym for
that's
one
like
of the
a
days.
huge turf, right?
Huge turf.
That's a nice gym.
And everything is just old. All the racks are old.
So I think I've seen it on the outside of the turf. That's all your racks
That's right.
and your Olympic lifting and all that stuff, right?
I'll try to get a picture of, maybe I'll attach one to the stream for people that are watching.
Yeah.
But it was crazy, but it was surprising. Because I thought it was going to be all brand spanking new everything, and because it wasn't, it was that vibe that you're talking about, right? It was that old school, like everything was a little bit old, and that's what I love about our gym in here too. Is it's not old, but everything's just a little bit old, a little bit dirty, a little bit of rust on things. Like it's just
a little bit
nice,
old school.
It's got some feel. This was the Harvard one.
Let me see. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So,
beautiful.
Beautiful, unreal,
Yeah.
unreal.
What was I going to say about that? Is
A little bit gritty, it's just gritty.
Yeah, it's not all like. Here's what I was going to say: is there was years ago, not that long ago, but let's say 10 years ago, I started not enjoying the atmosphere of going to a hockey game. So I remember going to a couple Wings games, and it was like there were so many distractions. I remember going to the junior games. All of a sudden, they had once they started implementing the huge scoreboards,
the
what do you call them?
Jumbotron.
Jumbotrons, and all the marketing that goes off in the stands. It's like always someone bugging you. You know what I mean? So you got the game that you just want to watch a game, but you have all this stuff, and it was like I found myself just going like I can't even watch the game.
Yeah.
There's so many distractions, and then in the middle of a game, something would be going on the Jumbotron, and I don't care about that stuff, but
Yeah.
you can't help, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
So I'd get annoyed with that. That's why I kind of like the old rinks, like so North Bay and Sudbury on the weekend. It was like good, like it's still the jumbotrons, but it wasn't as distracting. It was like
Yeah.
old school hockey. Just watch a hockey game.
Yeah.
It was kind of nice.
Yeah, for sure.
I do like that about Guelph too. They're it's not crazy with distractions.
Yeah.
It's a nice place to watch a hockey game.
I like that rink a lot.
Oh, I love
Fun
it.
place to play too.
Last thing I wanted to talk about was before we get into our actual topic is so doing my clinic last night. It's kids ask me, how can I be better? How can I do this? And I always give them a few things to do, and it's amazing. Like you have to practice the details. So let's say, for example, you're not a goal scorer. You're maybe a grindy kind of guy, but you can contribute. Mm-hmm. It's like one of the habits I always say is like every time you shoot a puck is finish off by going and stopping on the blue paint at the net every single time. I don't care if you don't think that you should or you're a little tired or whatever, and do it with some urgency. It's like it happens a couple times, then the urgency goes down, and then they skip that part. And it's like it's really important. Or taking a puck up the ice, and one of the little small instructions I always give the kids is like when you get the puck, take it not to the middle of the ice, but get it towards the middle of the ice so that you can enter closer to the dots and give yourself some options and stuff like that. And it's like, it might happen once or twice. And then it's the old school habits of down the wall and stuff. And it's like, this is why kids, a lot of the times they get to a different level and they're getting reamed at, or their habits don't become natural because they don't practice it enough. They don't put enough detail into the little details that make you a lot better a hockey player.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do. I'm going to try to make this work, but you might have to center me a bit. Yeah. So here's what I'm thinking about with what you just said. So kids, they don't pay attention to small things, and they don't do the small things, but the small things are what actually add up to the big thing of moving on and being a better player and getting to a higher level and whatever. It's the small things. It's not the big things, right?
Right.
It's not all the goals you score and all this kind of stuff. It's those little things add up, but kids don't pay attention to the little things.
Yeah.
And kids at all levels, all ages, up through junior, everything, they have all these little things around them that they could do that they don't do. And so whether it's on the ice, whether it's details of a drill, or the example we were talking about with Armac asking about, he telling me about losing weight, whatever, where it's like, the answer.
Yeah.
It's like, what you should be doing.
Yeah.
So when you're explaining, I've seen this a million times, you're explaining to kids the point of the drill or what they're supposed to be doing, and they'll tell you what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And then they're just not doing it, and they're like, I don't know why I'm not doing it. It's like, okay, but
one of the reasons that they don't do it is because those typically with the things that, like, let's say a goal scorer, there's a reason why someone scores goals. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously. No, there's a reason why someone scores goals. Score goals, there's things that lead up to scoring goals. You're getting in the right spots, you're driving the net, you're shooting you're shooting, maybe it's with your depending on the shooter, with you're creating a good lane for a shot, your feet are moving, there's multiple things that make you have success. But typically the things that make you have success are the harder things.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be really nice to be able to just skate through people, shoot and score. It'd be really nice to be open, a guy pass you the puck when you're open. Right. But the key is to do the little things to get open or to whatever. So like, that's why it's important that you understand that the if you're a goal scorer, if you're a power forward, if you're a good D, a defensive D, doesn't make a difference. There's certain things in your toolbox that must be done in order for you to have success.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So for some guys, it might be like no matter what, they're driving the net or their forecheck is off the charts and they get to the net right after, and all of a sudden there's loose pucks there and they bang them home. So it's not, and so in that case, it's not a function of them. They're ultra skilled. They're doing other things, but even the ultra skilled guys, they still have to do the things. You still have to get pucks, retrieve pucks. It just doesn't come to you, right?
Yeah.
So my point to that is that typically why things not necessarily fall apart, but people don't follow the little details is because those are typically the harder ones.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then, so my point on those is those little things, they're doing the little things right is simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
And especially for younger guys, it's really easy to lose focus and think you don't need to focus on doing those smaller things, even though those are the things that add up to the bigger things. So whether it's on the ice or off the ice, like another example is I have these kids on meal plans, right? And this is something I didn't think would be an issue, right? When I start giving, because I know what I think the issue is going to be if I give a kid a meal plan is following the meal plan. But
You said that would be the issue.
yeah,
You said
that's what I would think, right?
Yeah.
If I give a kid that's never done a meal plan before a meal
Yeah.
plan, my main concern is they're not going to be able to follow this because they haven't done it before. This is what's going to be the difficult
Yeah.
part. But that's not what I'm finding. What I'm finding is filling out the questionnaire for me to make the meal plan is a challenge, right? That's number
Yeah.
one.
So
And then-
so basically, what do you eat in the morning?
Yes.
What do you like to eat?
What are your preferences?
Yeah.
Like things about you. Like
Yeah.
it's not a test, man. It's like filling this thing out, and it's like 3 pages. It's not like they're writing me a novel. That's been a challenge. And then another challenge is when I give them the meal plan, I've included 2 or 3 pages of kind of like a frequently asked question, like answers to things that kids always ask me, and none of them read it. So I'll give them their meal plan, and they go right to the food. They don't read any of the information about how I got them to what they're going to be eating. None of them read it. And all of them have expressed issues with filling out the questionnaire. And it's like, that didn't even dawn on me that could be a problem for them.
The easiest part.
The easiest part, right? And it's not easy. It's simple, right? It's a simple thing to do, but for them, this isn't something that's easy. It's not easy to do that. And that's the little thing where, for a meal plan, for example, if you have to sit down and actually think about, okay, what do I eat in a day? How am I eating? That's actually harder than it sounds to do.
Yeah.
When you've never thought about it before, or what do I actually like to eat, and you've never thought about it, it's hard to do.
Yeah.
If you switch that to on the ice, if you never think about those small details of your game, like, okay, where am I actually going in this situation? Like one of the most common questions kids ask me on social media, which is the most ambiguous question ever, is how do I score more? It's like, these are the kinds of questions that are going to lead you to score more. It's like the small things you're doing. When the puck's in the offensive zone, where are you? What routes are you taking? Are you skating to where the goals happen or no? And if you are getting there, what are you doing when you're in those areas?
Yeah.
You know, and those small things are what actually make the difference. And my point of saying this is what kids think make the difference are often, well, I need to go to this camp, or I need to have this trainer, or I need to have this thing. I need to pay for this. I need to buy that. I need to move here. They think it's these big things that cost a lot of money or can cost a lot of money that are going to make the difference for them. I need the better skates. My stick sucks.
Yeah, they're called excuses.
All excuses, all meaningless nothing. So it's I'm finding it really challenging with kids to get them to understand those the small things are what matter more. Like value those little things. And you'll see over time, I was talking to one of the kids yesterday, they were doing an incline press, and he's noticeably getting stronger. Like I'm like, wow, holy. And I pointed out to him, like, look at what you're doing as a warm-up set right now. Remember when you just started?
Yeah.
Like a year and a half, 2 years ago, where you were at? And like now you're throwing those up like no problem. Yeah. It's like, this is why you consistently do it, because you're not going to see it today. You don't do a workout and then go look at yourself in the mirror right after and notice.
That's right.
And you don't notice it tomorrow, and you don't notice it the next day. But then you look back, and that little thing that you did now has made a difference, you know?
100%.
But instead, they look for the big things, the things I got to pay for, the things I got to buy, you know? And that's not where the difference is going to come from, you know?
No, 100%. Like it's hard, man. Like it's hard for people to see what the little things are. And I wanted to go into, because we were talking about this week, and it's like I had a conversation of like, where's hockey going? Like, where's youth hockey going? Professional is one thing, but where's youth hockey going? Because over time, I've seen a huge change, and just in the last couple of years, I've seen a huger change. This huger is not a word, but it's okay. A bigger change on the mentality, and it's interesting. Where is youth hockey going? I don't think it'll look the same, especially now that in Canada we've had like some of the issues with Hockey Canada. You know, I think people are losing trust in that institution, and for many reasons, maybe that makes sense. Not just the scandals that they've had and stuff like that. I think to me, this is to me, I don't know if I'm 100% right or correct, is Hockey Canada is like a government body, and I find that everything that they do is political. I find not everything, but I don't think it's for the greater good of the game a lot of the times, if that's the right way to say it. So they have these clinics and programs and all that stuff to cover their insurance ass, right? So every coach has to understand that everyone matters. Yep. Okay. That what's appropriate, what's inappropriate, and it's like it's just insurance stuff that everybody has to do so that they don't get sued, right? Most of it's common sense, and maybe some of it's good. I don't know. I whatever. But everything's is like follow the money kind of thing, and I don't think it's the best environment for producing hockey players, to be honest with you. And when you look at some of the rules implemented for like districts of or what would you call that, boundaries for what a team can play in, it's some places have it's fair, some places it's not because of the population in the area. Like I'm not saying it's in a bad way, but like if you live in Toronto, like I guess you can't even figure out what are the borders anyways. So, and there's probably a lot of manipulating with there. So like they just open it up, but then they open it up to the point where it's like, it's almost like, how good do you need a team to be? Right.
Yeah.
So it's changed a lot. So like, I'll just go back. I'm just going to go back a little bit and just go, because what I see is like when people think they come up with a good idea, I think it just brings out the same problems again on a different level. Okay. So like, where's youth hockey going? Well, let's go from where it started. Like if you go, I know this is old school, but like we go Bobby Orr, Bobby Orr and Gordie Howe and all that stuff, but it's relative. Okay.
Totally.
It was innocence almost. It was like people played hockey because they loved hockey.
Okay.
That's how hockey was back then. You can make more money working at the Inco mine in Sudbury or at the paper mill in Pembroke.
Yeah.
Then you could, or the steel mills in Hamilton and Sioux, then you could play in hockey. But what happened is people played the game because they loved playing hockey. So you had the Gordie Howes, all these guys playing in their outdoor rinks, rivers, shitty equipment, and they just played the game. That's Rocket Richard. They just played the game and they loved it. Now, of course, things evolve. So, but my point of that is like the innocence was they just played hockey because they loved the game. Parents didn't really necessarily go out and watch. You'd walk to games or whatever because it wasn't important. Like people had food to put on the table, and
it's a hobby.
Kids played, and some guys were good and moved on. Okay, so things moved on. But how people were discovered back then is like you'd play for a local team or whatever. Maybe you'd have an all-star team once in a while, and you go play one small town for another small town, and you'd have a great game of hockey, right? And it built on that. So then let's say the 70s. The 70s, we're almost at the 70s 100 years later. So when I was a kid in the 70s, how hockey was for me, like, so I grew up in Sudbury, Ontario, Northern Ontario. It's not Toronto. Like, I'm going to exclude Toronto a little bit but even then we played against teams like Chinguacousy. What's Chinguacousy? What's Wexford? Right? Those were actually AAA teams at the time. Yeah. Right? Because they're no more. So anyways, we would play, like I played when I was very young, and we played in a town called Coppercliff because I wasn't old enough to play in Coppercliff's where the Big Nickel is. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't old enough to play in the City League, which would be the City plus AAA. Yeah. So I played in Coppercliff, and then we had an all-star team, and we'd go to play teams like Sioux, North Bay, little things. We have these all-star tournaments, and you go play for your regular team during the season. And I really enjoyed that. I liked that because it was like playing with your friends, and then you got, the better players got to go play in a tournament a few times a year. It was great. So then as I got older, obviously Adam Pee-wee, there was the AAA loop. Then the AAA loop was good, but like say Sudbury itself, like my hometown, we weren't allowed to take the kids outside of the city of Sudbury. So like the county boys, like places like Lively, Garson, these are little towns, guys. Valley East, Ontario Falls, and all that stuff. They weren't allowed to come and play with us because of the boundaries. So that was like, we would have had a pretty good team if we were allowed to do that. We weren't allowed to do that. So these guys had to play AA or A or whatever it is, and we got to play AAA. We got to go to the big tournaments and stuff like that. But guess what? Those guys still got drafted. They still got to play junior somewhere, and they still got drafted, and it was really good. And then as it moved on, obviously AAA became a big thing. Now I remember going back. So let's say back when Zach Cassian and Danny Maggio and Ryan Wilson and all those guys were playing youth hockey.
Yeah, in early 2000s.
Early 2000s. I remember having camps and the AAA kids where they were really good, but what was also really good is you could take on every local AA team here, or A, whatever you want to call it. You could take 4 or 5 guys off of every single one of those teams, and they had the margin of difference in the quality of player between like the bottom half of a AAA player and the top half of a AA player was very, very small, like very interchangeable. And the AA loop was like really good hockey. It was actually very good.
I remember it was the same when I played.
Yeah.
When I was playing, it was the same because I was just a couple years after them. Same thing. We had 3-4 guys on the AA teams. When we started to get older towards draft year, that would jumped up, and we were kind of like waiting for them to come to make our team better because they were good players, right?
Yeah. And then it kind of changed again to like, I would say maybe 6-7 years ago. Let's say 10 years ago. I found that the gap between like on most AAA teams was that you'd have 2 lines that were pretty good or really good, and then the third line would be like, on not every team, but for the most part, the third line would be like, there's a difference now.
Yeah.
And then to find another person or two to replace any of those guys, it became very, very difficult to do. And I found that the AA loop became very, very weak now.
Mm-hmm.
Why did that happen?
That's what I was just going to ask you.
Why did that happen? Yeah. So I think what happens is there's been so much marketing in hockey, right? Like in Canada anyway. So the American kids, you actually have a pretty neat system because they, in all college sports, all sports, they kind of have that local high school, college, like that's the goal. So you kind of stay on in the same, you're kind of on the same path. It's kind of so, but anyways, so what I think happened here was with all the marketing and all the big year being an OHL or CHL draft year, so many people were putting their eyes on what happens at 16, and they were seeing guys at 14, 15, and then they're not getting drafted. And it was like they just quit because, going back to the Hockey Canada thing, they have all these rules implemented in who can go up and play Junior B, who can play Junior C, and they limit it to 1 or 2. I understand to a certain extent why they implement these things, because there's you could stack 16-year-olds and you could take away from this midget and all that kind of stuff, and you could water it down either way. But what happens is they made the decision that even though we might have 4 guys or 5 guys that are 16 years old that are really, really good, and only 1 or 2 of you are allowed to go play Junior B and move up, and it's like, why? So anyways, my point to this is I found that what happened is 14, 15, 16, kids were so much pressure and so much talk about being good at 16 that if they weren't 14, 15, 16 years old and they weren't like top dogs, it was almost like they didn't want to pursue it anymore. It's like quitting. The parents were like, "Wow, you're no good. Like, you should do other things." And they never kept the kids in focus.
Yeah.
So I think one of the biggest things that happened here in Ontario, Canada, maybe Ontario, anyways, is like, so in the 80s and probably before that when I played, there was the 17-year-old draft. That's what it was, and then they made exceptions for 3 rounds, or then they moved it to 5 rounds where you could be an underage, a 16-year-old. And I think what that did is that it so if you didn't get drafted at 16, it wasn't a big deal. You played till 17. You got drafted out of major midget, most guys. And so that kept a kid in focus a little bit longer. That 1 year makes a huge difference in hockey.
Oh, dude.
You see guys, man, that were really good in minor midget that you think are going to get drafted. And the next year, it's like that next kid is the kid that was maybe not as much of a big star, grew all those things. Yeah. And he's actually as good or better.
Dude, that was me. I was exactly
for sure.
That.
It was you.
If I had 1 more year playing AAA, and to be fair, there like a lot of the good players are gone when you play midget major here now and all that kind of stuff. But I was a significantly better player a year later after my draft year. And it was like if that would have happened 6 months sooner, and this is like a whole other thing where it was like late birthday guy, grow a little bit later, that 1 extra year of letting all the boys go through puberty, because that's prime time, man. Like 14, 15, 16, 17 is prime time. And we even see it with the guys here that play junior that are like 70. Some of these kids are units now. And it was like 2 years ago where they were like little boys, So it's like that extra breathing room that they get. But I think that's a really good point, is everyone puts so much stock on that 16-year-old time frame, and you see the kids disappear because it's like, well, I'm not good enough anyway, so whatever.
Well, so you got, I can't even, well, how many people walk in here when their kid is a good hockey player at 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and they talk like, and the parents just talk, and they need, they're the best thing since sliced bread and all that kind of stuff. And then when it doesn't happen, it's almost like the parents say, okay, I'm putting words in their mouth, but it's like, okay, now you're not living up to what I was talking about. It's either make excuses or find something else to do or whatever. But anyways, I find that a lot of people, when they get to 15 years old, the seriousness or the dedication to being a good hockey player kind of goes away.
Yep.
And it's only the ones that are good at the time. But that's not only. There's still a lot of guys that still love to play the game, right? And they still keep pursuing it. But for the most part, you see guys go different directions. Now, is it because there's all kinds of different things that kids can get interested now? Like, I mean, you play video games and all that kind of stuff. Like back years ago, that stuff wasn't there. You just went and played sports.
Yeah, but sorry to cut you off.
No,
it's
okay.
just it is the unnecessary heartbreak of not being drafted, where you see guys they all fall off now, and it happens every single year here, from midget minor to midget major. It's like midget minor, I got every single kid here is working out, training, consistent on the ice, working hard, doing all the things that they think they're supposed to be doing. Draft comes and goes. Midget major comes now. The kids that got drafted are gone or playing junior. And the other 13 kids that were on that team, I might have 3 that are still here the next year, continuing to work. Maybe.
No, I know.
And
I know
that
it drops
happens,
off big time.
that turnover is insane, where it's like all of a sudden these kids just think, yeah, well.
And it's crazy because you're not done being a hockey player at 16. Some guys might be done. They might have peaked.
Yeah.
And some guys might be done because they're not good enough. But guys that work hard and dedicate themselves, and I mean, you're 16.
There's a lot more hockey to play,
4, 5,
man.
6 years to get something to happen. Not saying that everyone's going to get something. That's not the truth. But it's that. So anyways, I just saw a huge difference. And then what I liked when I started my business down here 22 years ago, 23 years ago or whatever, is I liked training all different levels because there was like some good players, and and I liked going to a AA hockey game. It was like you could still see some really good players, and it was like it was exciting. Yeah. So that's that. Okay, so I don't know if I went all over the place. I don't know if
So that's.
Were you able to understand my conversation?
So okay. Recapping. Yeah. Recapping. Basically, what we're saying is, or what you were saying, if I got you right, is you think that as time has gone on, we're just getting further away from playing hockey for the sake of loving it and developing. We've been getting away from that, and we're getting more towards eye on the prize at 16. And if that doesn't work out, then I don't really care anymore. And
that's one of the things.
One of the things. And then as a result of that, if you're 13 and you're not playing AAA, the incentives are kind of now to not keep trying because you feel like you have no chance anyways, because I'm almost
not
16.
Being as focused.
Yeah,
like not
right?
not thinking that you have a chance, which is fine.
Yeah, and because of that lack of focus, we're seeing a real decline in the quality of players that are at the AAA level and not. Like before, like you were, because I remember that when I was a kid too. Like I said before, some of those AA kids were unreal, and we're like hoping they're gonna come play for the AAA team. Remember, we were talking about how Eric Wellwood had like 200 goals playing AA. His dad never let him play AAA, so it was like he was unreal. I don't know where those kids. I don't see any AA kids that are like that, at least around here anymore. Where
Not
it's like
often.
they're just
not often.
Yeah, they're just like a top guy where there'd be no question that this guy could be playing at a higher level if he wants to be. So that's kind of like the first element of what you're saying. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's 100%.
Okay, so second, unless you had another one to go, because I was going to start to throw the money thing into it.
Well,
as the next
just a second. So the second part was I feel like Hockey Canada puts all kinds of boundaries on things, which I understand why you have to do that to some degree.
Okay, well, let's swing into that for a second, because that's a good topic. So then what do you think about kind of the second point you made when you were talking about earlier, was the boundaries part of it, how some places that you play, like in Toronto, for example, you're allowed to kind of do whatever you want. You can go wherever you want.
Yeah.
Whereas you come down here and you're stuck based
Yeah.
on where you live and
Yeah.
whatever. So how does that play into how you think about the minor hockey system, like where you feel like it's going, or maybe some problems that you see with that, or how that's contributing to the development positively or negatively?
Well, okay, so with the boundaries, this is what we see this all the time. I can't tell you how many conversations in a week someone tells me that they want to leave. They want to leave their
Yeah.
team, and sometimes I understand.
Yeah.
Right? I've said this before. Like, let's just say if you live in Kitchener, Waterloo. Okay, I don't want to say Windsor. Okay, because this is our
Yeah.
place, but it's Kitchener, Waterloo, or London when they're Elgin, right? So if you live on this side of the street, you belong to Kitchener. On this side of the street, you belong. Literally, that's what it is, a boundary,
Yeah.
right? You play for Waterloo. So let's say you play for Kitchener, and you got let's say it's not a good team, and the coach is a complete idiot, like complete,
Yeah.
right? Whereas you got your buddies over here. Maybe you don't go to the same school or whatever, but it's like literally across the street or a 2-minute drive. And you've got a coach that really cares, that teaches, that does things right, and you have a nice team. Like, just because you live on this side of the street doesn't make sense that you can't go play here.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is this coach over here that doesn't run a good, or maybe it's the whole program itself doesn't run a good program, but because you live 5 minutes over here, you cannot play on a good team. So you're stuck here. Maybe it's an organization that doesn't, they do a lot of things wrong, let's just say. And maybe the integrity, whatever. I'm just going, whatever.
Yeah.
Where it hamstrings someone from going over there. Like, that's causes problems. So what happens is, I've seen this so many times. Parents will fake a divorce, right? To go
legit.
and buy a house or rent a house to go on the other side of the street. Like, does that seem extreme? Yeah. But then if you've got, like, you've seen some of these guys running the programs, it's like, but I can't have my kid around that guy or these people. So it's like, that's the extent we're going to go so my kid can play hockey. Yeah. That's nuts.
And if you go play AA, it's so much worse now.
Especially now.
That's not really an option, right? So that's a really good point. So I think the question I wanted to ask then is, because we've talked about this a little bit before, the boundaries thing, how there's positives and negatives depending on how you look at it. Because then if there's no boundaries, then you can just stack a team and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. And we will be getting there after.
Yeah, but to me at least, maybe you agree or maybe you don't, is I would rather it be, especially in a place like this, like Toronto's a tougher situation because there's so many people that stacking the teams can be, because one team could end up being so much better than another. But in the dynamic of like Windsor and Sun County or London, Elgin, or Kitchener, Waterloo, I feel like that kind of incentivizes a little bit more of the supply and demand competition type of thing, where if you're the Kitchener organization and you have a horrible coaching staff and everybody can jump ship and go to Waterloo, maybe that forces you to have a better run your organization better.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. So on the positive, if we put it in the best light, it's you kind of incentivize, you have to have a better program. And if you don't have a better program, you're going to fold. Your program will fold. And that's just what will happen.
That's right. Maybe you have to start looking at, okay, so kids don't want to play here.
Yeah.
So what do we have to do better? Well, maybe we need to have better coaching. We got to get good coaching. Well, maybe we have to have maybe a guy from a couple old school hockey players, not old school, but guys that were been in the game, that understand the game, that could come in within an organization and be a coach mentor, which doesn't go well a lot of the times, but or help us, like have a guy in whatever area that's really good at power plays that can just teach the concept of power plays to people, or systems and stuff, and kind of oversee or run good skill stuff as an organization. And you bring more to the table than just putting on a jersey, right?
Well, and because we've seen this, where if there's no real recourse for change within the organization, because no matter what, kids have to stay and play, then things can get real stale with the people that are running it, because there's no consequence. They can stay forever. They don't have to change. They don't have to do anything, because they ultimately have the power over you. If you want to leave, you need to come and ask me, right? So if you're stuck there and an organization is really being run poorly, it actually doesn't matter. There's no real consequence because there's nowhere for you to go, right?
This is why you get a lot of people saying, well, I'm just going to fake the divorce and go over here, or I'm going to get like here in Windsor, Detroit's across the river. So if I can get an address in Detroit and have him go to school in Detroit, well, then he's going to leave. So we're seeing a lot of decent players or really good players leave for other cities or go to Toronto because you can hide in Toronto, right? Your dad could have a business, or you go to a private school and all that kind of stuff, and then you can hide that, and then you get away from your local hockey development, which to me is a really sad thing from the roots of hockey. It's really sad because you got some good quality coaches that are doing their best, and that might be good, but because you're not in those big centers, they're fighting to keep you here. And maybe not lastly, but very importantly, is you're asking, or you think it's a good idea for your 13, 14, 15-year-old kid to move away from home early.
Yeah.
And for what? That's the other thing.
Yeah.
So that, and then we could talk about money. So how do you want me to go about this?
I was going to say the other big contributing factor to the way that minor hockey is run now, or youth hockey, whatever, is the money thing, right?
Well, that's one of the reasons that, for sure, people cannot afford to play the game.
Well, this is the other big thing, aside from all those issues we're just talking about, is that a lot of kids may just not play hockey that would have been a really good player just because it's so expensive to play.
So expensive.
And it's so unnecessarily expensive to play. It's not that things actually have to cost as much as they cost, you know? It's like the senseless fees that you have to keep paying, or the cost of equipment that's like so ridiculous it's not necessary at all. Then the crazy travel schedules that you guys have to do. Like it's such a barrier to entry now that it's just becoming an elitist sport,
you can't play
man.
AAA hockey, or I think even AA now. You can't play without having, like, first of all, your sticks are, if you're using a $200 stick, it's not a very good stick. It's probably really bottom heavy, and not that mom and dad would know the difference, but it's probably a really bottom heavy stick that's like you might as well use a piece of 2x4, right? The skates don't have to be $1,000. You can buy the cheaper ones, but like, people don't really understand. It's like, well, you got to get good ones, or else, that's a thing, right? If you don't have good skates, you won't be able to skate. Then you just go back. I remember the skates. I skated fine on my skates. They were never the best. The hockey sticks, do they have to cost $400? Like, honestly, $400? What if you have 2-3 kids? Like, ridiculous. Do you have to have every team? Like, it's mandatory pretty much that you sign up for the team and you got to pay for jerseys, or maybe sometimes it's included in the fees or whatever. But you need the same hockey bags. Is it absolutely necessary? Do you need the same tracksuits? Do you need warm-up stuff? Do you need toques, jackets, like everything to go with it? Do you need to travel? Do you need to go for a tournament 8 hours away when you can have plenty that are just right around here or wherever you live? Like, it's just, the costs are so high. Now, if you go to the American side, right? Because I coached the AAA over there, and it was weird for me because we were Detroit. Lots of kids came to play, and we'd play all over the place, right? We played in Minnesota, St. Louis, Boston, all those places, right? But we have showcases, and it was like, we'd be playing against Colorado, we'd be playing against Los Angeles, we'd be playing against Dallas in these showcases, and that was like the first weekend. I'm like, okay, that's who we're playing. Then we'd be in Boston, and then those teams would be back again. I'm like, how'd you get here? How the hell did you get across the country 3 weekends in a row? Well, what happens is because in a lot of those centers in America, United States of America, is obviously maybe Dallas or Los Angeles doesn't have the amount of people that play in Toronto or even Windsor or whatever. So they take kids from all over the state or different states, and they bring them together, and they don't have competition to play against, so they've got to fly all over the country to do it. So that's a buck. So usually, I guess, there's probably a lot of people that play are people that are making a ton of money, to fly your kid across the country all over the place. That's a lot of money. So the game itself was like, it's so expensive to play. So that's where another reason, like, especially around here, why people, can't afford it, man.
Yeah.
And then, okay, go ahead.
Well, no, I was gonna talk about trying to do things to bring the cost down, and it's like such a problem from every aspect, whether it's the organization or the equipment, the company selling equipment, whatever, to tournaments and stuff. Because on the one hand, it's like you're trying to make the organization attractive, where it's like, oh, we're going to go to Nashville for a tournament. It's like, okay, cool. Like that's cool. Whereas if the team next door isn't going to Nashville for a tournament, maybe that's not as nice of a selling feature. But as time is going on, to me, I feel like the organizations that can keep things reasonable, that will be the attractive thing, right? It's going to be more attractive if you don't have to take 5 weekends of the year or the 8-month hockey season to travel to over 4 hours away and stay in a hotel for 2 nights and miss work for 2 days and all this extra stuff that doesn't necessarily need to be there and doesn't necessarily contribute to their development in any way. You know, especially when they're young. Like, you got these young teams that are like, they're 12 years old and they're going to whatever. Like, we had a AA team here. They're 12 and they went to Nashville. Was it Nashville did they go to a couple weekends ago?
Yeah.
Whatever it was.
Columbus.
Columbus. It's like, you want to Columbus? Like, why are you going to like, it's cool. I get that that's a cool thing, but it's just these are the things that make it unreachable for a lot of kids.
Yeah.
So
I think it's only going to get worse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like this is what I would like to see, like because I would like to go back about 20 years. I thought it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
20 years ish where AA hockey was good. Here's why. So I think there's less yeah, I would say this. I would say like not Toronto, but maybe even Toronto. Have the smaller communities have higher end teams. It's not going this way, by the way.
Yeah.
But so in our area, Windsor Sun County, if we had one AAA team,
yeah,
you'd have a very good AAA team, and those 15 other guys would trickle down to the AA centers and would make the AA centers actually very good. And we kind of go back to like 20 years ago. If you went to London and Elgin, you did the same thing. You have one AAA team, you have a very good AAA team. Kitchener, Waterloo, Hamilton, Brantford, go across Ontario and do that, and maybe to some degree Toronto as well. Or Toronto's just Toronto. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would eliminate a lot of like the higher end kids. And now, of course, people say, well, then, you know, politics could play into who makes a team and all that stuff. But whatever. I don't even want to go there yet.
Yeah.
These are the problems, though, right?
Yeah.
But it would make good quality hockey like almost at every level. House league would be house league.
Yeah.
AAA would be AAA. It would be good quality hockey, and AAA would be really, really, really good. That's what I would like to see. But it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Me?
You got something to say?
Kind of along the same lines. What do you think of this idea? This is my idea. When I was a kid, up until I would think I was 10, you played house league, and then they had like a select team at the end of the year
all-star
that
teams.
would play, all-star team.
That's what we called them when I was a kid.
And then when
Or
I was
tournament
10,
teams.
we started AAA, but it was just like Blue Water AAA where we played. It was basically AA. It wasn't actually AAA, where we played like Bell River and all the little community teams around here. What if they kept that model?
Dude, I would die to not see AAA till Bantam.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
For me. I know people are going to say, wow, my kid's good.
No, but this is what I was going to say.
I love it.
What if we did up until you're 14, there's no such thing as AAA. It's AA, and then at the end of the year, you could do like your select team, and you go for a tournament to play all the other select teams in Ontario or whatever, up until you're 14, let's say. And then your Bantam minor or Bantam major, midget minor year, or U15, U16 year, now it's AAA or whatever for those last 2 years.
No, I'm not saying no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. I would say once you're 13, which is old school minor Bantam.
Yeah.
Or what is it now? U14?
U14.
Yeah. So it'd be the old school
U14,
Bantam,
15.
Bantam, midget. That to me would be the perfect model. It's not going to happen, by the way.
Well, and because then my other thing was going to be, and then push the OHL draft to 17.
That'd be awesome.
Right. So you got
Bantam, with
Bantam,
an exception of like the 3 rounds.
Yeah. That'd be great. So if you did Bantam minor, Bantam major, so U14, U15, and then midget minor, midget major, U16, U17. And then you have the U17 draft, which is where most guys would get drafted. And then if you want to do exceptions for whatever, the first 3 rounds of kids that are exceptional, then leave it as that. Because now there's no craziness about AAA when you're 11, because you know your draft year is when you're 16. You get an extra year of development through puberty, whatever. You still have 4 years of playing AAA, so you're not getting any less exposure than you would be, because nobody's going to watch a 12-year-old AAA game. So it's
like for what, scouting?
scouting.
Yeah.
So it's like for all this travel and all this extra expense, it's like so not necessary, because no one's even going to watch anyways. If you have the best 12-year-old ever, nobody cares. Like, it doesn't matter, right? They don't come to start watching until you're 14, right? And even then, it's not at that much.
15,
Yeah,
16,
right?
yeah.
So it's like, up until that point, what's
Yeah.
the point? What is the point of
Yeah,
having all
I
this
don't know what
expense?
the point is.
Yeah.
I really don't know what the point is. But that would be something I strongly believe in. And just think of the level of hockey. From the pressure's off a little bit. You don't have to wear your AAA socks everywhere and your AAA jacket. Doesn't matter. You're just playing for, the LaSalle Sabres. Who the hell is that?
Yeah.
Right? No, who cares? The Dunnville, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay, it's great. That's your team. That's where you live. You're playing with some of your friends. The hockey will be good enough.
Yeah.
And you just get to develop, and then when you get to the 13-year-old, then you have big tryouts for your AAA, and it actually means something, right?
Yeah.
Not that it doesn't mean anything when you're younger, but and then so the thing about the other thing, I'm going in a different direction here, but the thing is now is that when you have someone in Adam, Pee Wee before they go to AAA, if you got goal scorers, instead of getting, and I think this is good, I think your goal scorers will be goal scorers. Right, they're going to dominate games. They're going to have the puck on their stick more. They're going to make plays. You can actually, as a coach, can teach them, like, okay, you got the puck on your stick the whole time. You got 4 goals today in the first 2 periods. When you get the puck, start looking for other guys, and it's like creating creativity and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get guys that are on the bubble of maybe they would be on AAA, maybe they would, but now they're playing good hockey. They're just going to get better. And that's if I had a solution, that would be it. But it's not going to happen, because what's happening now is everything becomes more. So what used to be AAA is not good enough anymore.
Yeah.
Now it's got to be AAA plus. It's got to be the best team ever. It's got to be, now the new thing to me is the academies.
Mm-hmm.
So what a lot of kids are doing is finding academies to go to, because what the academies do, so we'll go to Toronto, let's say. So a lot of the kids go to an academy during the day, which means that they're going on the ice with their school academy and whatever. And I think it's a really good model, to be honest with you, to be able to go to school and inside your school, now it depends on where your head's at.
Yep.
If school is the most important thing, then the school needs to be really good. If people say school is the most important thing, but their actions a lot of times show that hockey is the most important thing. So if school is the most important thing, make sure it's at a good school. But anyways, what these things are is, as you go, everyone knows they're there. You go to school, and either in the morning or at some part of the day, it's hockey, where you're training with supposedly a good trainer, and some of them are very good. Some of them are ex-NHLers. Some of them are just business models, right? Trying to make as much money as you can. So you got to be kind of careful of what those are. Some of them are horrible. Some of them are really good. But then at night, you're playing with your AAA team. So you're playing with the Marlies or whoever it is. Like, this is the Toronto. And they're starting to pop up all over the place. And I do like the model. I actually do like the model, because if I could design that model now, but there's another host of issues, right? So if you can design that model where you had, let's say this area had 1 or 2 private schools. Or is that what they're called? Private schools? Private school? Yeah. London has 1 or 2, whatever. So now you're getting rid of a little bit of the politics of the Hockey Canada thing, and you can actually go and get your own players. But now you can get them from all over the place. Because you can have international students and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But what happens now is it's the same problem over and over. You try to become super elite. Yeah. Right. So it's like,
and the cost of the school,
and then the cost,
right?
And now the cost is going off the charts. But now I know some of them would probably give some scholarship money or whatever, but that's not what they're in business for. Yeah. So but I like that model. But then the other side of it, what I don't like about that model, unless it was just the model like the U.S. has, where it's like you play high school hockey, and like in Minnesota, the high school hockey is your team, and then you go to the next level.
Well, yeah, because that's a whole other element too, right? It's like if they started to get into developing like a high school system where it's like it would end up being effectively the same thing I'm talking about, where it's instead of having your AAA rate from your 10, instead you're just playing local. Like if you played all your local high schools, there'd be 15 teams, right? So it's like you just do that, and then you can have your whatever high school team moves on to do their like in Ontario, it's you have your in Windsor. It's called WEXA, where you do like all the Windsor Essex County schools, and then you go to Southwestern Ontario, and then you go to all Ontario if you win kind of thing. Or you could do the same select model where you have like a high school all-star team. We used to in high school we had the high school all-star team, but it didn't mean anything. It was just like a symbolic who's on the all-star team kind of thing. But that is more or less what they have in the States, where it's like you move up. I don't really understand the minor or the youth hockey in the States, because most kids just go up. If you're in a hockey state, you go and you play high school. Like there's not the same emphasis on AAA, because high school is a legit option. Certain states, right?
Certain states, yeah.
Like I know Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, Florida.
Michigan's got a huge AAA thing.
Yeah, they have a huge AAA thing, but you can still go play. Yeah, you can still play high school. Like that's a legit alternative option.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the cost necessarily is for playing high school there, but it wouldn't be. I don't know. I wouldn't imagine it's the same as going and paying to go to a private school or academy or something like that, right?
But the other problem I was going to say about the private school, so like as good as that sounds, the one thing that I think I don't like about the academy model currently is that sometimes I think it's too much ice.
Oh, for sure.
So you have,
Totally.
and I've seen this, man. Like, okay, so here's an example. I've got a group of kids that are skating with me now, and they have too much ice. I see it. They are not focused. They just look at a skate as just another skate.
Yep.
The teachable moments I have are few and far between. And it's hard to teach because they're not. It's just another day on the ice. Yep. So that's what I see with the model of while you're playing AAA. So if you're going to an academy while you're playing AAA hockey, it's like you're on the ice so much. Like how many of those sessions on the ice are you actually truly focused to make yourself better? Mm-hmm. The other thing is you have two different. Not that this is necessarily bad, but you got maybe someone telling you something different than when you're coach. Maybe this guy's promoting your individualism. This guy's trying to be a team guy. There's a lot of things that aren't good, but for real, I think it's too much hockey, too much on ice, and I think that if it was limited to maybe a couple times a week, it would be good. Couple 3 times a week, and play AAA, that's fine. But I think it's way too much. And I think that hurts you.
Oh, that's for sure. We say that all the time, man. Guys, like that's the other thing that's hard to drill into people's head is that more ice isn't better. You know, to a degree, more ice can be better, but it isn't always better. And the younger you are, the worse it is, because if you're just always on the ice all the time, it's hard enough to teach kids. Like I got a group in here on Thursday nights that we do some off ice stuff because the dad was asking to do off ice stuff. And it's like, you can, but the kids don't care. So for you to pay to have a place like this, where it's actually attempting to do focused teaching of actual things to help you, they just want to have fun, man. Like they just want to mess around and have fun and play games. And that's not a bad thing. It's just not necessarily worth your money or worth your time to come and have them spend it here when they don't really care about what the message is, you know? And that's the same thing you find with guys when you do your skill sessions. It's like, yeah, you guys can come and do the session, but this is something that would actually benefit you. So maybe instead of the 10 other things you're doing, maybe cut off some of the deadwood and come and spend your time more focused in one place, right? Because that's like such a common thing, especially now with the academy stuff, or even in our area, all the high schools now have hockey academies and stuff. And they're not high-end good things. Like it's ice, and it's an activity. It's more like an activity than, it's not like training. It's not, and some are better than others and whatever, but it's like, it's just extra ice.
Yeah, and that's my other point is like, yeah, like you said, there's the smaller Hockey Canada academies that the high schools have. And it's like, for the general population, good. Yeah. They get to go to a hockey class, I guess. That's good. But for the kids that are actually serious about hockey, it's not good. Yeah. In my opinion. Because it's ice that is not real focus and high intensity, or you're not learning a whole bunch. So like, what's the point? But people think like more is better. Yeah. And it's really not.
Well, and parents have a hard time understanding that too, because I remember I was talking to one of our guys that we train here. Has this academy option at his school, and he was in it last year. And so I was talking to dad on the phone this year, and he was saying like, hey, like with your workouts that I do outside of the academy, because I also help teach this off ice for this academy. He was saying, well, because he's coming to see you with the academy a few times a week, maybe we won't do the workouts that you do at night, like after that he does with his team. Yeah, and that's exactly what I said to him. I was like, was like, man, the workouts that I do with the academy are not geared towards elite level hockey players, which your son is trying to be one, right? This is for like kids that have never been in the gym before, because most of them are just, they play house league or low level travel hockey where they're not super serious. So this is not appropriate for what he's trying to do. So I would get yourself out of the academy. Like don't do that, and then come to the workouts with the team that, or with the small group of buddies that he has that he plays AAA with, because that is a serious workout to his level. It's not this other crap, right? So not to mention the timing and all these other things about it. So he ended up, good for him, listening, and he stopped doing the hockey academy because it's not actually helping. It's actually just taking away his resources, making him more tired, making him expend more energy than he needs to when he should be saving it for more focused attention on something else, right? And that's what I find with a lot of people that are in youth hockey. It's like, it's everything. Let's try to do everything. You can't, man. It's going to make your kid not like it, you know?
Yeah.
So
my prediction for hockey going the next, like, I'm interested to see what happens, but I'm going to say that I don't know how you afford it, number one. I don't know how people are going to afford this thing, but I think that it's going to be, you're going to be, the bigger the academy, the better, the more bells and whistles and all that kind of stuff, you're going to see more people trying to go to. Mm-hmm. Problem is, like, if you're not the absolute best in your area, going to a bigger area with a better team doesn't mean that you're going to be on the first, second, third line. You might not make it. Yeah. But anyways, I think in the next few years, you're going to see the academies go off the charts. I think that you're going to see some sort of boundary thing change where you got the AAA we'll just call it quadruple AAA elite superstar status. Yeah. Because that attracts people. And I'm just really curious to see where it's going to go. I'm personally glad that my kid's out of youth hockey, because just the time, the money, the almost, I'll call it insanity of getting your kid around and going to these places and travel. It's just, it's nuts. Mm-hmm. I don't know where it's going to go. I'm really curious. That's my point of this thing today. Is we were talking about the other day. I'm just really curious on what this is going to look like in 5-10 years. And I would say the academy, the good academies are going to do pretty well. I would like to see that kind of be a new league instead of the AAA model. Yeah. But then it's a price thing. So I don't know, man. It's interesting. Oh, so
maybe to wrap up on kind of something a little bit more practical for everyone, with the system, how it is currently and where you think it's going, combining those two things. If you're a kid going through it now, let's say you're 12 or whatever, so you're kind of right in the thick of it. What do you recommend as your kind of progression through the system as it is currently? Like, what do you think? Like, it's not like they have a ton of option, but there's a lot of noise about where you should go. Should I do an academy? Should I play on this team? Should I move them to Detroit? Should I go to Toronto? Should I stay here? Should I just bite it? Should I stay in AA? When should I jump to AAA? What's kind of your...
Yeah, well, it's
like, or let's do this, like right from day one, like if you're starting in minor hockey, what do you think is like the most appropriate in general, obviously different circumstances, for a kid progressing through youth hockey here right now with how it is?
Okay, you don't have to go to AAA at Adam or Pee Wee, or like, it is what it is. You go when you're ready, but I don't think you need to do it in like U10, I think it's called. What's Adam, the old Adam?
I think U10 is the lowest.
U10, U11. I don't think you have to play AAA at that point. Like, I wouldn't. I would do exactly what I did with my son. Because what I did with him is like the AA loop that he was playing in when he was in U11 or U10, whatever that is. They changed the wording here in Canada. It was decent. But then I looked the following year when it was called Canada's old Pee Wee. Now it's U12, whatever. What I found is that most of the good players left to play AAA. So it was like, I was looking, I go, it's not very good now. Like, it was very watered down. Mm-hmm. So that's why we went in Pee Wee. I wanted to wait till Bantam, but it was like, that's what we kind of needed to do. And I would do that kind of the same way. I'd probably do the same thing. Yeah, I would. And then I would never like. So that's what your question was. What you would do? That's exactly what I would do. I wouldn't move because it's not appropriate right now, and I wouldn't go to an academy. Not just for an extra hour of ice here and there, or too much ice or whatever. Here's one of the things. When my son didn't play AAA when he was in the U10, 11, whatever, Adam old school Adam. He didn't. The AAA coach said, well, how come he didn't try out? I said, he's fine. Well, just AP, like be an affiliate player with the team and get as many games as you can and practice with us. And I said, listen, I appreciate you saying that to me. Like, you can come out, but my son plays for the Essex Ravens. That's who he plays for. That's who I want him to focus on, and I don't want him to go back to his team and say, man, I wish I would have played AAA and having that thing hanging over his head. This is his team. This is where he's going to play. This is where he's going to practice. This is what he's going to focus on.
Yep.
All good. And it was fine. It worked out for him. So I would do the exact same thing. I mean, nothing's changed right now from the youth hockey. So if I live in Windsor, I got to play in Windsor. That's the way it is. Maybe Sun County, or if you play in London and Elgin's better, maybe Elgin is where you'd like to play, but you got to make the best of what you have. And if you're a good enough player, you make a difference on that team, and it's not going to hurt you in any way, shape, or form, unless you got bad people running the organization. That's when I would look like, and I mean, when I say bad people running an organization, I don't mean like they're not friendly or
you
they
just
think
don't
they're
like
a good
them.
coach, or you know what I mean? It's like bad people, meaning like they damage. Their principles do not line up anything to the way yours are and your kids, then that's something that I would look at moving. Other than that, it is what it is, right?
Yep.
I wouldn't go sell my house just for my son to play on a different team, but that's me.
Yeah.
And then the academy side, like I think as of right now, and people would argue this, you don't need to have more ice, but if the academy was like part of your school day and it's a very good academy and it didn't cost you a ton of money and it was only like a few times a week in the morning during your school day with a good instructor or a good coaching system, I'm good with that. But when it's 4 or 5 days a week and it's just to get out there, it's like, nah, no thank you. No thank you. But I wouldn't change a whole lot. But I do think that that's going to be going there. It's going to be something the next few years. I think there's going to be a massive change that I don't even know if it'll make sense to me, and I don't know if a lot of people can afford it.
Yeah.
That's what's scary. And then it waters down. Not waters down. It's just there's going to be a lot of people that can't afford to play hockey, which is really, really sad.
Well, you know what? The other part of it too is the academy versus AAA cost is starting to be not that far apart. So it's like whether you play AAA or you go to an academy, it might be the difference of couple $1,000. It's now instead of 12,000, it's 15 or whatever. So it's crazy either way.
But think of the people that are going academy and AAA.
No, I know that's crazy, man. That's crazy.
Huh?
But I know that's why I keep saying it's turning into the rich person sport, which is not
has been for a while.
Yeah,
but it's ridiculous now.
Not a great thing in my opinion. So, anything else you want to say before we shut her down?
No, I think I'm good.
Good to go. Okay, hopefully that was interesting. We'll see you guys next week, as I always say.